good day, and welcome to this edition of the Island Step Football Show. I'm your host, Earl Baston. Joining me are co-hosts Macy O'Dill, Coach Keita Robinson, and Garrett Punchy Dill. Well, the last time we were on the air, there was matches, a doubleheader that night that took place. There was another doubleheader that took place midweek, and then, of course, last night. A total of 31 goals were scored in 6 matches over the last 7 days. To just quickly recap, Crossroads and Somerset drew 2-2 last Sunday night, with Boulevard going down 3-1 to PHC. And then it was Tuesday night, I believe, St. George's went down 5-3 to Dendy Town, and Hamilton Parish went down 2-0 to Devonshire Cougars. And then last night, a total of 13 goals were scored as PHC Zebras defeated Somerset Trojans 6-0, and then Crossroads beat the Boulevard Blazers 6-1. So let's actually go back to last week. The first match that was on tap was Crossroads and Somerset. Now, as we all know, Crossroads had a point to prove. Lost that first match that they played to PHC 6-0. And and actually, Maceo, you said it. Gumbo would have to go back to the drawing board and work with what he has to try and improve it.
Well, I mean, we're gonna take a deep dive into the amount of goals that have been scored, but as it relates to Crossroads and Gumbo, I mean, I said it. Gumbo is a winner, right? He's a winner and is an intelligent person, so he would know what he's got at his disposal versus how he has to play the game. So obviously now he's going back, So he started off with a 6-0 loss, and it's like, and I can almost think what is happening is that I'm not going to take this. And he has to adjust how he thinks about the game. Remember, I know he's going to think about the game how he grew up at North Village, but he's not got the North Village players. So the second result, he gets himself a draw. He locks off, and his third result is now Hamilton team that's not organized.
Right.
So I like that progression, and people like Gumbo having this type of challenge as a coach, having a type of challenge where you're not got at your disposal the type of player that you think that you like, and how do you still technically set up the game? How do you intelligently set up the game to be able to compete and give the players the opportunity to get results? So kudos to him, right? Kudos to him. Now is about not getting ahead of yourself, right?
Right. Coach Keita, I mean, to bounce back from a 6-0 loss and then get a draw with Somerset, who drew their first match with Boulevard the week before. What would you have thought went on in that changing room after that 6-0 loss to get his players back up to play against Somerset?
Again, having a conversation of the things they did well in the practice match, and having Thompson back in his lineup, for these next few matches is something that we can't ignore. But again, it's taking advantage of the teams that he can take advantage of, as Macy said, a team that's not as organized, and helping his players mentally understand that we have to take advantage of those types of situations. Catching Somerset in the space that they're at right now, is a good thing for him and to build his players' confidence. So that 2-2 against Somerset, regardless of the level of players, but be playing against a coach like Scott Morton, and to get a point off of them and to take that now into the game against Boulevard. Gumbo, being as he is, would have the ability to get his players in a good space to get that type of result. But it's him now taking advantage of those teams that they can actually take advantage of. He's going to come up against tough opposition again, but when you're winning at that, to that capacity, it's going to be confidence, and now again, starting the game, working on tactics to play against the PACs and those teams that, that he lost nothing to. So, yeah, Gumbo wouldn't have been too fazed by that, and he understands the challenge that he has with this group. And he coached North Village. It wasn't always easy when he had that team. He would have had some of those challenges there as well. So, yeah, I'm not surprised at all at the results that Crossroads have gotten.
Sure. Now, Punch, I'm going to ask you to take a look at Scott Morton, because I don't know if you've seen the Somerset team, but they have quite a young team. And what his challenge would be in putting his philosophy in place at Somerset.
Well, that's going to be his challenge. The first, that's going to be Scott's challenges. What he's going to do with the players at his disposal now. Because remember, they lost quite a bit of players, didn't they? Mm-hmm. But last night when I watched them, especially after the third goal went in, you know, there's a lack of leadership in there. That's the first thing, a lack of leadership. When you have such a young group of guys, you're throwing them all in the deep end. You need a senior person with quality. They can keep them organized. Just keep the heads up. And I think that's what Morton is going to be looking for. What I did notice last night is that usually Somerset, knowing from the history, they always play with two wide, good players, wingers. I didn't see that last night. I noticed that. I said, why? Oh, that's a change. You know, what Morton's going to have to do is similar to what Gumbo is doing, with a lot less experience, building blocks. That's going to be Scott's Morton's challenge, and it's going to really be a challenge too. I'll tell you, especially when they go away from home, when they play out away from home.
Right. Yeah, I noticed at the start of the game last night, not to take away from last week's game, but at the start of the game last night, Somerset were trying to be physical, especially in the midfield and with the PAC front runners. The unfortunate thing is the PAC guys got physical with the Somerset front guys, and as you have alluded to, those guys came on the inside. They were not going to be outside one-on-one taking the slams in which were being handed out.
I mean, if I can just add to the Somerset thing, it's another challenge, right, with Scott's style. Scott's style is a disciplined style. You know, Scott's style is going to be, I think Scott's style is a little bit closer to what Somerset's culture is than Jamal, you know, culture after Somerset. Like Jamal, that was like oil and water with Jamar Wilkinson up in Somerset. Scott's a little bit closer where he's going to bring discipline, but it's going to be the challenge of those players. It's going to be a big challenge of, has Somerset built players over the years that are capable of implementing what Scott Morton's going to want? I know what it's going to want, you know, and that's going to be the question. What does their youth development look like? When Scott went to Village, it was a time where it was a good youth development, where good players were coming through. When he went to PHC, it was a time when good youth development was happening, and players came through. At PHC, he had DeMarco Warrens, he had Trey, he had Sequoia, they had good homegrown youth development. This is not going to challenge. Does Somerset have good homegrown youth development to match what Scott Morton's going to bring up there?
Right. Punch, I want to ask you, because you saw it last night. So I've noticed that Scott has played Damon Ming in the midfield, in the center of the midfield. He done that against Boulevard. He done that last night. I didn't see the other game, but he kind of looked out of place. Did you get the sense of that?
Yeah. It's when you're building a team, you're trying to rebuild a team, especially with so many youth players, and then you got a senior guy you're going to rebuild, or that's going to be the backbone of the team. He doesn't fit in there. I've always known him to be a wide player, playing in those channels, making those decisions. It's tight when it's tight in a game, when you need to keep possession. Damon doesn't fit that for what I think Scott would need in there. Scott needs another senior person in there, another good midfielder.
Well, I guess it's utilizing Damon's seniority, thinking that he can get something out of it, but it just doesn't. Right. I don't think it's working out well right now.
Yeah, I just think that he's going to come up another, maybe his tactical concept of how he's going to set his team up. I still think that with Somerset's history, I always look for good wide players. And maybe if Damon played wide, but they'd help out defensively, I think they'll get a little bit more going forward. Because what I saw last night, especially, it's going to be a lot of work for him.
A lot of traffic in there. Coach Keita, when you take a player out of his, I guess, familiar role, and you're trying to put him and adjust him to something different as a senior player, what's some of the things you want to ensure that player does well to make sure that the position you're putting them in is helping the team?
Well, actually, you gotta. I'm thinking of. I'm listening to you guys, and I haven't seen the game, so I'm thinking Damon Mean playing inside the in the middle. That's different, but I know that Scott will be thinking about his brains more than his brawn. So
Right.
he's thinking that there's a senior player who's seen a lot of situations, and he should be able to guide and direct the younger players. But Damon is not the biggest of players, and you kind of need a strong player in the middle of a park who's going to be able to think the game, but also be able to play it at a comfortable level. And players will see Damon Ming in the middle. Everybody knows that he's a speedy player, or was definitely a speedy player. And that position doesn't require too much speed, so he automatically is not a threat
Right.
in there. So they feel a little bit more confident that that threat is taken away, and they will just attack him for his size, and they will feel that they can match him in that area. But I would understand Scott's his thought process behind putting Damon Me in there as a senior player. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Well, let's go to the second game last week, Sunday night, and that was Boulevard and PHC. Maceo, PHC coming off a 6-0 win over Crossroads. It took them a little while to kind of get going against Boulevard. Do you think the physicality of the game, that particular game, played a part in that?
Most definitely. I mean, PHC is quite comfortable with that got a physical culture about them, so they're quite comfortable. Whereas, Boulevard's culture, they want to try to outplay you. They want to be clever, and to be honest, Boulevard's not got organization to do that. They're not got organization, and PHC just had their way with them. And PHC does have organization. I think, as things shaping up, when I look at PHC, it could be a good situation for PHC, even with all the players that they have lost, like the Trey Means, the Antoine Russell. So Antoine Russell, he could be like a Cristiano Ronaldo. Okay, he's a big figure, he can get his goals, but is he going to work with the team to get the team to where it was? With Marco Warren, no, he's in full flow. He's totally in charge now. He's totally in charge of that team as a leader, as a personality. He's totally in charge, and he's gonna glue the puzzle pieces together. Whereas his the big personality now, so sure. that could bode well for Marco Warren, where his leadership now comes out, his intellect in the game comes out to be able to push PHC forward, and it could be easier for the coaching staff as well. Last year, reflecting on last year, PHC with Antoine Russell and those type of players, Trey Mean, I think they would have been better players coming from the bench for the club and for the younger players, more supporting cast role versus dominating starting roles. And I think that potentially where PHC went wrong last year. But Boulevard were no match for them. They, and we talked about, I talked about last week, Jomar Wilkerson being found out as a coach. I think he's going to get found out that the lack of organizational piece that he does not have is now going to get found out.
Right. Well, let me quickly ask Punchy, because they played that first game against Somerset. I'm talking Boulevard now, Punchy. They played that first game against Somerset. They took the lead. They gave up the lead. Well, Somerset came back and equalized, and then in a 1-1 draw.
Yeah.
Then they're playing PHC, who had just scored 6 goals. As a coach, what are you putting in place to keep that team at bay? And they did so in the first half. Because there were no goals in the first half, but they lost 3-1. So, as Jomar, if you were an advisor to Jomar, what would have been the advice given to him going into that game against PHC?
Look, when I watched last night, I seen Boulevard play. I saw him play last night. I didn't see the other game against PHC. Right. But what I witnessed last night, I had to also go back on what Maceo was saying about the organization down there. Once you got a group of guys that play Boulevard, okay, we know what the other divisions like, down in the second divisions like, okay. So they managed to get promoted, but then you can see a lack of, like, there's still like a lot of no cohesiveness in this team. There's a lack of organization. They ran out of steam last night early, you know, and then they run out of ideas. And so I just figured that, well, you know, against PHC, they give the, you know, first half, okay. But after, you know, the second half, well, they were, no, PHC is definitely a better outfit. What I saw last night from Boulevard was once the third goal went in, they just run out of ideas. They, you know, there's a young man that plays up in front. I think I saw a lot in him. His intent is short, built small, not bad at all. I don't know his name. But the other Jazar Samuels, I think Jazar Samuels.
That's
yeah, I don't know what
grandson of Punchy. That's John. What's his what's his grandpa name? Huh? Samuel.
Yes, not there. But Sam, right? Yeah, just who's
grandson.
Yeah, but he, you know, who's a midfield. He looks a little bit out of sorts with Boulevard right now. You know, even though you know what you're gonna get from them. With the community down there. But what Joe Moss gonna have to do is gonna have to, like, hey, make some changes. He's gonna decide on how he's gonna play and what is the fitness like. Because I did question of quite a bit of the fitness of some of those players there last night. You know, so Joe Moss got his work cut out, and I think, like I said, with Boulevard, this is gonna be something, a real test for him in terms of, because, you know, his Joe Wilson is. What has he done for Dennytown? Look what he done with Southampton Rangers. He had his first real test came up in Somerset last year. Right? So this is another one. You got a couple of aging players. There's a young Detroit that plays in midfield with the long hair.
Yeah.
Slow. Yeah, slow. I mean, creative, right? But don't tell me for 20 minutes. His passing ability for 20 minutes, then the rest of the time he struggles. So So I just find that Joe Moss got some work cut out. I looked around on the bench who he has. I was thinking of watching him warm up. You know, I was like, oh, so let's see what they're really about. But he's got his work cut out for him, Joe Moss.
For me, just add to that conversation for coaches, what they don't do is evolve. So we're going to actually even task Scott Morton now. This season is going to task Scott Morton. Has he evolved how he approaches the game? You know, and when I look at Jamar, he hasn't evolved on how he approaches the game. So yes, that worked great with Dennytown. It tapered off a little bit with Rangers. He got a trophy up there with Rangers, but you saw what the disaster with Somerset, and now, you know, potentially adding for serious disaster with Boulevard at the very beginning of it with the type of goal. Coaches haven't evolved and learned more about the game and are being found out when new coaches are coming in.
Right. Well, the plus side to now Scott and Juma, for a matter of fact, they now have a few weeks off to work on those particular things as they head into the league season because they're out of the league. So now it's back to the training rounds and concentrating on that, as opposed to we have to get ready for Tuesday night or we have to be ready for Thursday night. You know what I mean? So now they'll have a little bit of time, and actually, if the games were taped, they could show the players what their intentions are for them to complete the task on come game day, especially first game of the season. Because for these two teams, it's about survival. It is clearly about survival. First, it's about survival. We're going to take our first commercial break, and when we come back, we'll have more with the Island Stats Football Show. We'll be right back.
Putting down the weapons.
You seen this?
Welcome to the new bulk store, Lindo's Next Level. Wake up in the morning with enough coffee to keep you running throughout the entire day. Your pet at home deserves the best. Stock up on dog food to keep your puppy happy. Need a quick, tasty lunch at home? Your chicken nuggets will be jumping right out of the freezer. What's a movie night without popcorn? You can never have too much. Lindo's Next Level. Why go anyplace else?
I'm also thankful and grateful because my greatest value of my life is my legacy.
But why I do it? I feel supposed to do it. I was put here to be here, to do what I'm doing right now. Once I see somebody moving, it's the greatest joy for me. There's a little person being born.
I am thankful that people have given me the trust, for me to empower them, from my players to my family to friends. And that's what I'm thankful for. I'm thankful that people have allowed me and trusted me to be in their life.
And welcome back. Well, Punchy, on Tuesday night, the Dandytown Hornets outscored St. George's 5-3. One of the first things I thought after hearing that score was how strong Dandytown was last year and not giving up many girls throughout the season, let alone you're giving up 3 girls in a game. What would be your concern with Jay, the coach of Dandytown, the new coach of Dandytown, Jay Bean? What would be your concern with the giving up that many girls?
When I look at both of those games, and I look at these scores, like you said, the 4-0 against Cougars, and then they gave up 3 against St. George's. It will be a cause for concern for Jay. When you first take over a team, you become the head coach, the first thing you think about most of the time would be, how can we keep clean sheets? How do we dig in from the first game? Let's set our standards high from the first game. Then it's time to do that. So what Jay would probably have to do would probably look back and say, well, listen, how were these girls conceded? Especially these 3 girls, they were 4-0 against St. George's.
Yeah.
3-0. St. George's came back 3-1. Yeah. So and look at the times that the girls have been scored. So Jay's gonna have to do something about that. Maybe it's just again, changing of coach and changing of the guard, pinpointing out how we can get stronger. Where the girls coming from? Why are we leaking these girls? That's something he's going to have to fix. I think they're going to be I know they're going to be okay.
Yeah.
I know they're going to be okay in terms of scoring goals.
But it's not addressing.
In terms of letting goals in, which they will have to do. And first, he played in a defensive position. So, he's a defender. So, he would have to look at that and think, well, okay, look who we gave goals up against, and what's our next game against, and how do we fix this? This lapse of concentration, or maybe it's just the attitude about defending. It could be one or the other, but he definitely will have to look at that.
Right. Now, Mazio, after St. George's coming away with 2 goals against North Village and a 2-2 draw, coming to that game, they would have felt good about themselves, but to turn around and give up 5 goals, what would that conversation be like, especially down 3-0 after 45 minutes? So what's that halftime conversation like for you?
I already know. St. George's is excited right now because they got some younger players that can attack, right? So they got excited. And when coaches look at what's at their disposal, that they got players that can attack and score, they get excited. And what coaches have to start to recognize is that the best way to be able to attack and play attacking football is to learn how to defend. So there's also an either that the best form of defense is attack. So coaches with these type of attacking players have to learn how to defend and stop goals from being scored. And what you will find when you learn how to defend, your attacking players are going to attack. They're going to find the solutions to attack anyway. They're going to find the solutions. But if you just allow them to have freedom and run rampant, you're going to be opened up. So what St. George's is actually happening to them. They're being opened up. As much as they can score and go forward, they're being opened up defensively. And that's the same thing that's happening with Dandytown.
Right.
The same thing that's happening with Dandytown. they need to now get back to some very basic defending principles.
Right.
And allow the attacking players to find these solutions going forward, because you don't actually have to coach attacking most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
So if you listen to a guy like Pep Guardiola, one of the famous things that he says, the only thing he does, he sets his team up and he makes them rigid to get to the last third. When they get to the last third, they do what they want.
Right.
But he sets them up not to be picked apart to get to the last third.
Right. Right.
He doesn't coach the attacking piece of it.
Yeah. Well, if you look at it, both teams have conceded in 2 matches, seven goals.
Yeah.
And have scored 5 goals.
Mm-hmm.
So it's got to be. I mean, if you're scoring but you're conceding more than you're scoring, you got to work on that.
Just as we look at the scores in general, and we talk about coaches with qualifications and we talk about all these things, but again, I want to speak of the intelligence of coaching. Do we know how to defend? Are we setting these teams up to be able to know how to defend, to manage and control the game, to give attacking players the opportunity?
Right.
I think the coaches are in their mindset. I want to attack.
And we also have to remember that 2 of the St. George's girls were from the spot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
but even though they're from the spot, that means
they're created chances.
They're created opportunities, right? Yeah. They're creating opportunities to threaten. They're creating opportunities to threaten. I mean, if you look at the world game and the international game, you get. I mean, we talked about the kid Haaland the other day, that Man City. He got 11 touches of the ball. So that means what that means is that the other team was set up defensively to keep him away from the danger area. But the one touch that he got in the danger area, he scores. So it's a whole setup to keep you away from danger areas. And that's not how I see coaching in Bermuda. We get in the danger area so easy.
So Punchy, let's think about now that Dendy Town's advanced. Have they advanced? I don't know if they've advanced.
Yeah, they have
advanced. Yeah.
Okay, so now that they've advanced, and it's a quick turnaround because I think there's games Tuesday. What's your focus? What is your main focus? I mean, there's not much time to work on it, but what's one of the things you would want to work on, if anything, in a 2-hour training session?
Well, again, Denny Thompson schoolgirls. Like I said, I think that 4-0 loss to Cougars is a wake-up call for JV. They're going to schoolgirls. They do have quality. We know that. What will be for them is that as they move further to the competition, I think they're going to be okay. Again, it will be about, and to what Maceo says, the coaching staff, teams in this country have got sometimes to adapt how they defend. The quality of the defending is just as important as the quality of their attacking. And I think getting back to even adding the St. George's, a draw and a loss is not panic time, but they leave too many holes. They're too open early in the game. When I saw the game against North Village, it could have been 3-0 after 20 minutes, or it could have been 3-1. I'm seeing also against Danny Town with against how far they were down 3-0. So again, like with Town, we talk going back to Town also about being better defensively. Setting up themselves, setting up and saying, listen, guys, the first 20 minutes we're going to bed down. We're not going to give a lot of space to teams. We're going to see how many, we're going to cut the spaces down. We're not going to let teams get too many easy shots at goals. I think that's what Denny Town will talk about. I think that's what they will need to work on. And I'm sure, those discussions have been had. Right. I know discussions have been had for St. George's also. What needs to be done the first 20 minutes of their game defensively when they don't have the ball? What is it that they're doing that they open up too much?
Yeah, one of the things we know, Dandy Town have lost their goalkeeper in Jade Mendes. Despite being young, he kind of took over the reins a few years ago. So the confidence that the players would have had in him Now they have to readjust because they have another goalkeeper. That actually does play a part in how players set up.
Well, that's most definitely. But even when they had Mendes, and that's a big loss. But even when they had Mendes, they still gave up chances, and Mendes was very good at preventing clear-cut chances.
Right.
They even when they had him, I mean, he was just very good. And now that is a big adjustment that now they start to link goals.
Yeah. Well, we're going to take another commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to talk more about the Hamilton Parish Devonshire Cougars match. We'll be right back.
I'm also thankful and grateful because my greatest value of my life is my legacy.
But why I do it? I feel supposed to do it. I was put here to be here, to do what I'm doing right now. Once I see somebody moving, it's the greatest joy for me. There's a little person being born.
I am thankful that people have given me the trust, for me to empower them, from my players to my family to friends. And that's what I'm thankful for. I'm thankful that people have allowed me and trusted me to be in their life.
Putting down the weapons.
You seeing this?
Welcome to the new bulk store, Lindo's Next Level. Wake up in the morning with enough coffee to keep you running throughout the entire day. Your pet at home deserves the best. Stock up on dog food to keep your puppy happy. Need a quick, tasty lunch at home? Your chicken nuggets will be jumping right out of the freezer. What's a movie night without popcorn? You can never have too much. Lindo's Next Level. Why go anyplace else?
And welcome back. Well, obviously, Hamilton Parish would have been disappointed with the result against Devonshire Cougars, having the opportunity to take the lead and then getting nothing at all out of the match. Maceo, let's talk a little bit about Devonshire Cougars with you, because they under Kwame, they have been kind of a silent force. He's changed a bit of their attitude in the matches. So looking at, especially going forward for Devonshire Cougars, what would you anticipate Kwame doing to ensure that they establish themselves as a real contender at the start of the season, at the start of the league?
Well, it's interesting, right? Because they won that game the other night because they're Devonshire Cougars and because they had experience of winning games. Because, quite frankly, Parish structurally set themselves up to be in the game for long periods, and Parish lost the game because of lack of experience, a lack of belief at that level. And, Kwame was able to call on that we are Devonshire Cougars. We're won league titles at this time. We're won this trophy. We're the defending champions. He was able to call on that type of spirit to win that game. But if you listen to Kwame's interview, he wasn't happy with the play of his team. He knows certain things got to happen to control games a lot better than they have. And now is the task of what he's going to work on in the training ground, the selection of the team to set his team up to control games. Because he knows now it's pressure on the Devonshire Cougars because they are a contender. This is the time that they should be pushing for either the league title this year under Kwame's reign. He's not won a league trophy before. He's got new coaches, people that he had rivals with as a player with Ralph Kamubin. He's got Scott Morton back out there. He's got PHC that's look like they're going to strength. So he's got to now get it right from how he selects his team, how he sets them up to control games.
Yeah, and Punchy for Hamilton Parish, you're playing in a little faster pace now. Ohio Division, as Maceo said, they set up to stay in the game, but to come away with nothing. What is your conversation in the change room with the coaches and the players?
Experience. I think Maceo touched on that. Experience is what Hamilton Parish is going to have to deal with now. In certain games, certain times, like schooling girls or preventing girls or stopping girls is going to be most important for them. They're going to be set up like with Sergio. I know that he's a football technician. He thinks the game a lot. So he thinks a lot about how he wants his team to play. But I just think that with Hamilton Parish, with the top teams we're playing against, like for instance, what happened against them with Cougars, let's say when they go up against PHC, that's PHC, the Dandy Towns, even the North Villages. It's gonna be a real test for him in terms of how he sets his team up. How does he come out with a point, a share of the spoils, or what, But that's gonna be the speed of the game. How the players now that those players are gonna be playing against every week now. So that's gonna be Hamilton Parish's task this year, and that's what Sergio would have to do. I hope he's got another assistant coach that can sit down and say, "Listen."
Let me just add to the assistant coach that he has down there, Punchy. He has Larry down there, Larry Smith down there.
Larry Smith.
Larry Smith is switching that. And just to add to that conversation about winning games, this is where Sergio will be tasked as to his philosophy of the game versus winning games. I always attach, for me as a young coach, sometimes I had to go away from my philosophy of the game to win a game, to gain my team's confidence in me at that level. So if you remember me as a coach, me and Streaker, I had North Village playing the ball from back to front, playing diagonal balls over the back. That's not necessarily North Village football, but we got on top of the games, and then I started to implement the show up playing, the show up passing. I earned the right to play the way I want versus, and this is where the battle with coaches in Bermuda is this is my philosophy. I'm not going away from it versus getting a result. Whereas me and Streaker took the approach, we're going to get a result. We're actually going to get a result. And United's doing it right now. Manchester United's getting a result. They're not necessarily looking good. They're getting a result and earning the right to be able to play the way they want. So that's going to be Parish's challenge of getting a result based on their philosophy of playing.
How much in their heads, just before you go, how much in their heads would that 3-0 win over Robin Hood kind of played on their psyche as the players?
Well, I think that Robin Hood I think they're in trouble this year for sure, right? So with Parish coming up, the community of Parish community followers, they came out all guns blazing. They came out guns blazing. Yeah, then you look who you're playing against. Robin Hood. You showed up with 13 players, I believe. Yeah. So but it's a wake up call for Serge. What I would do if I was Serge, I'm sure he's probably gonna take one game at a time, right? Analyze your next opponent, right? Make sure you understand what you want to do against them. Don't think 3 games on this is all we're going to be playing all the time. And I think that's what Serge is the learning process that he's going to have to adapt. He's going to have to adapt. Really, he's going to have to adapt. I think, I don't see Parish in trouble. I don't think so. I don't see him. They're going to have to pick up. They're looking at the first couple of games, depends on what the league is set up. Who are the first 3 opponents? That's going to be very interesting.
Right.
I mean, so that would be for Hamilton Parish. I think I'm sure they're going to be okay this year, along with Larry's expertise. Sergio, and Sergio is young, Sergio is a young coach in terms of coming in this division that he's going to be as like Maceo said, about coming up with different philosophy at times. And I think Paris got some pretty good young players down there.
Right.
Well organized, good community backing. So yeah, they will be okay. But I'm not. Are they going to win any cups? Do you see them in the league? What position would they come in the league? Maybe about fourth, maybe fourth. About would they win the FA Cup? You know, so that's what I just hope that in this the beginning, the cup that we're playing now, the cup that the Dudley Cup, that he can get whatever you take out of it, but learn.
Right.
That's what I would think that Sergio would have to Parish would have to do.
Yeah, it's more of an educational part. Get a sense of the pace of the game, real game, because you could have 20 practice matches, but until that official whistle blows and your heart rates, going and all of that, it's a big difference.
I think for the players, Hamilton Parish players will be the first time that they feel they played well enough to win a game and they didn't win it. So It's like, hold on, I played well.
Right.
And I didn't win the game. Like in the lower division, they played well, they win the game.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that creates a conflict all in itself, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And of course, we'll just quickly recap last night because PHC started that match basically outplaying a lot of Somerset, especially in the first 15, 20 minutes. They had a penalty save after about 3 minutes. Marco Warren had his penalty save. I was a bit concerned with how physical Somerset were looking to get. They were concentrating more on being physical than more playing the ball around. And I think that's when, once PHC scored, the first thing I look to the bench and I see Scott trying to tell the players, pick themselves up. But if you saw that second goal where the goalkeeper done well to save Marco's shot, but only PHC players reacted.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was 3 PHC players ready to fight each other to kick the ball in the net, and everybody from Somerset was just standing there, kind of thing. So
I want to see if the players can handle a demanding coach such as Scott Morton. That's going to be the thing. Can the players handle?
Well, to be honest, I mean, Dio has had a lot of these guys before, and he was demanding game days. How demanding was he in training? I don't know, but I've seen him, in game days, he's quite demanding, and I see them how they react to him. The difference is they've known Dio from young. Now you've got another demanding coach, but a different voice.
A different voice. You're exactly right. I watched Scott at North Village being demanding, but at North Village, at the end of the day, we have warriors. I watched Scott bench Cantuan Jennings until Cantuan done what he was supposed to do. And Cantuan's a warrior enough that he said, "Okay, I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do. Okay, you won, Scott. I'm coming in."
Right.
Kevin Jennings. Those type of players. Does Somerset have that personality of a player that could do that, or does that player put his head down and cry?
Right.
Cantuan Jennings was not going to put his head down and cry because Scott Warden was demanding of him. He was going to pick himself up and show that I'm playing national team football. I'm traveling across the world, and you know what? I'm going to be part of this here.
One of the things I saw a lot of hope, especially in the first half, from that young Somerset team. I mean, you could see them creating chances, creating space, working for each other. It was just that once the team went down, there was no leadership on the field that will pick them back up. And you need that on the field. You need somebody who's going to say, come on, shake that off. That's over. Move on. Let's play. Get back into our rhythm. It was at times where some guys were hiding, not wanting the ball. And once you get to that point, you're starting to lose players.
Yeah, and this is the point that I'm always making about adjusting we have this term now that you put an arm around players. I don't know that I can be that coach that puts an arm around players, but I know it's also effective that you learn to put an arm around certain players to get them to do certain things.
Yes.
I'm more of I got a stick. Here's a stick. If you don't do what I'm going to do, what you can do, I'm gonna take a stick and you know, and I think Scott's like that with that type of old school coaching as well. But you know, at places like PHC and North Village, he had more players to select on. So
Right.
when you drop in Canton Janis, you have Michael Hansey.
Now that's a very good point. If you're talking about what you have, I'm sorry.
It's a whole,
replace it with,
yeah, it's a whole different thing when you can't get your 7 or 8 top players to do what you want, you know, and they all drop, and you're not replacing it with somebody of equal ability, you know. So it's a tricky psychological balance that Scott's got to find up Somerset now. It's psychological now, you know.
Right.
And that's most important to recognize what about what you both hit on about having someone else, like what you saw the other night, last night. Just how they start falling apart.
Yeah.
You know how they fell apart. Once the second goal, the third goal, and the third goal. You could start seeing it. It was just that easy for PHC.
They were hoping halftime came quick.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, really much so. But again, with Scott is going to have to figure this out. You know when they come up the field, they're being battered. They're like 3-0 down, or even after the game, like you lost 6 goals are going in. The problem is, what do you do after that? I think a perfect example is what Gumbo has done thus far. But what does Gumbo have to work with?
Right.
See, as soon as Donovan came back, you can see a difference. The link-up play between Donovan and Shea Bwangman was quite evident last night. Right. So I don't think Scott Morton has that at Somerset. So his task is going to be a little bit much more different from Joe Marks.
Right.
You know, and don't forget, Somerset's, how I thought about, 6. That's Scott Morton in charge. There's going to be a lot of talk about that.
Hey,
they don't
Jamal last year. You got to convince that Somerset. You cannot.
Yeah.
Somerset is Civil City. I don't care what anybody else says. Somerset is Civil City. They have that reputation. They have that behavior about them. They cannot have they ain't had a league title since Dio, or they ain't won a whole lot for the last 20 years. But don't think they're not Civil City.
Yeah. They still have that pride. They still have that pride and that will.
And remember who's been up Somerset to try to do stuff? Andrew Bascom's been up Somerset.
Yeah.
Remember who's been up Somerset that's not from Somerset, that's trying to do stuff and has not done it.
It's also a question we got to think about society too, in terms of you got this club that was such a high level, running like the PHC, the Somerset North Village, Devonshire Colts. You wonder, well, what has happened up there? What has happened in the last 5 years? Like it's Edington Drew being up there, other people that are going and try. So there seems to be something not right.
One of the same thing that probably North Village and for that fact Devonshire Colts have suffered with. The senior players, most of them leave at the same time, and the quality coming in isn't at the level which they need it, and it starts to drop off. And then what happens is those quote unquote good players get frustrated and leave.
No, Somerset problem, I can date it back. The same thing as North Village. Somerset problem is when they didn't sort out the business with before Dennis went to Cougars. Right. They didn't sort out that business where Dennis
he went Wolves first.
Right. When Dennis was driving Somerset in a direction, actually came back after Wolves. And was in the youth setup up there.
Right.
When Dennis was driving Somerset in a direction and said, "This is where we gotta go," and they didn't get on board with him, and then he went out. He ended up at Cougars and won the Triple Crown. Now, that's where you could date where they are, and that's why I make the mention: what have they built in their youth program? Yeah. What have they built in their youth program? Same thing with North Village. Yours truly was driving North Village in a direction and building the youth program up to be able to, and the relationship didn't work out. Now they're in these positions, right? So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah. Well, we're going to take our final commercial break. When we come back, we'll look at the games that are scheduled for Tuesday night. The Devonshire Cougars will take on Robin Hood, and then Dandy Town will take on the North Village Rams. We'll be right back.
Welcome to the new bulk store, Lindo's Next Level. Wake up in the morning with enough coffee to keep you running throughout the entire day. Your pet at home deserves the best. Stock up on dog food to keep your puppy happy. Need a quick, tasty lunch at home? Your chicken nuggets will be jumping right out of the freezer. What's a movie night without popcorn? You can never have too much. Lindo's Next Level. Why go anyplace else?
I'm also thankful and grateful because my greatest value of my life is my legacy.
But why I do it? I feel supposed to do it. I was put here to be here, to do what I'm doing right now. Once I see somebody moving, it's the greatest joy for me. There's a little person being born.
I am thankful that people have given me the trust, for me to empower them, from my players to my family to friends. And that's what I'm thankful for. I'm thankful that people have allowed me and trusted me to be in their life.
Putting down the weapons.
You seeing this?
And welcome back. Well, come Tuesday night, it'll be the final round of the group stages of the Dudley Eve, and that 7 o'clock match at Devonshire Rack will feature Devonshire Cougars and Robin Hood. We all know, or we have some idea of the trouble Robin Hood's in. What would you be looking for from Robin Hood on Tuesday night, Maceo, to give you a sense that they will complete the season?
Oh, wow. We're having that conversation, and you're actually right to have that conversation. You're right to have that conversation about them completing the season. I mean, what they need is they did it last year when we thought they had embarrassed, right? Where they created the foundation of structural football, and I was impressed with their coach to create structural football to keep his team in the game.
Mm-hmm.
We saw that they didn't have the experience at times and the quality at times to win games, but he kept his team in the game. And I think that's going to be harder this year to keep his team in the game with these senior players that they lost, and Shea Brinkman, and they could be open up to big losses.
Mm-hmm.
They could be open up to big losses. And now we'll test how they're raving about the youth program that got out there. They got a youth program out there that's been winning all the youth tournaments. Now we'll see if that youth program resembles what I saw at VA at the time, where they had youth programs where they just had battle players and winning. Because now they're going to have to draw on that youth program to sustain them at this level. We'll test it now.
Yeah.
We'll that's going to get tested as to how good that youth program actually is.
Sure. And Punchy, for you with Devonshire Cougars, you have you have an unsettled opponent. Unsettled, what I mean by that is the team they're unsure of what team they're going to have. They've got veterans, they've got youngsters, but they're unsure. So if you're Devonshire Cougars, what are you looking to do from the start of the match to unsettle them even more?
I guess, yeah, I'm sure Kwame will be at him as soon as the beginning of as soon as the whistle goes. It's not gonna it's not gonna let his players be complacent. I'm very sure of that. When you find as a opposition coach that the other team you're playing against, they're not showing with 13 players. I'm sure that's talked about. And we haven't mentioned the fact that Robin Hood also lost that center half that's going to PHC. What's his name?
Jalen
Ballard, that was a national team player. He lost a lot of experience, right? He lost a
Right.
lot of experience.
So imagine what Robin was and the amount of other people that are going. But for the coach, like for Kwame, I'm sure he's going to make sure that they're playing at home, and you know what it's like playing on Devonshire Rack on a Tuesday night. Yeah. It's tough, and they would like to cut. They're getting the curtain raiser. So with the results they've had thus far, he's probably going to say, "Listen, let's not get complacent. The problem is their problem. Let's take care of ourselves tonight. Let's put on a good show here, get a good result, and move into the next round." I'm sure he's going to get. You know, it's going to be tough out there for Robin Hood on Tuesday night. And again, it's amazing to see how far they go. When the results just keep getting worse and worse, and the players start showing up.
Right.
Very interesting.
Yeah. And the nightcap. Well, we're just getting an update. The youth are away in school. We have 13 youth players. Oh wow! So that even puts them in a deeper hole, and that's Robin Hood. With so many youngsters away in school. I mean, you really want to compliment them for being away in school and getting that education and being in a different environment. But at the same time, the local team will suffer. Then at the nightcap, Dandytown have been leaking goals. Maceo Village have scored 2 goals but conceded 2 goals. So going into this one, what would you think Kenny's philosophy will be in trying to get 3 maximum points and a shutout against a team like Dandytown?
But this is a task for both Village and Dandytown. This is a task for their coaching, both the coaching staff, so as to where the season's going to go. You know, and it's very important. It's a already intense match. You know, between these 2 coaches and these 2 teams. You know, as to what are they doing? You know, what are they being able to do? I think from Kenneth's perspective, you know, he has to knuckle down and create foundational football where he doesn't get scored on. And I've always been critical of Kenny, how he sets this puzzle up. Like, I'll give you an example. You know, you have the kid Ian Simmons that he plays in a number 10, an advanced midfield position. I think that kid is a center half. He can control the game better at a center half. Whereas the other night, Kenny played Paco, who's not fit. Paco, that he is a North Phillies type player, but he's not fit, and you know he withered. So this becomes selection. How do you select and put the puzzle together? You know, to get the most out of your group of players, and that also is the same challenge for Dandytown. You know, you got certain things at your disposal. You can score goals. How do you put this puzzle together to stop goals and give their creativity, to give your players, the creative players, a chance to score? You know, I've been to a lot of training sessions. That's what I do. I go to the training sessions and I see what they're training. I see what they're doing, and I see a lot of coaches working on a lot of attacking options. And I don't get it sometimes because creative players, which Bermuda here, they're going to make their own attacking options. You have to structurally put players and the puzzle together where you can get scored on, or you can get in defense, you can get in those danger areas. So it'll be interesting to see how Kenny sets his team up, how Dandytown sets the team up, because their season's on the line right now.
Right.
The season's on the line as to how we're going to perceive them, how the players are going to perceive them, how the fans are going to perceive them.
Right. Yeah. For Dandytown, how do you what would be your strategy going into this game?
Well, let's say should I call this one? No, I'm not gonna call it because you remember what happened last year, the first game we called it, and North is going to beat Dandytown. And 2-0 in Darwin Park. I think so. Yeah, I think we called that one too. We didn't get that right, but as the season wore on, we saw what was coming with when those 2 teams met as the season wore on. Right. I'm sure that Jay will have this team. I mean, let's look at the front line of Dandytown. They are capable of scoring whatever the goals. They're quick, fast, and you know, like I said, I think the score against Cougars beginning of the season. I think it was one of those off days. All right. I think North is going to have the work cut out for them on Tuesday night, and how Kenny sets his team up against them. it's going to be quite interesting because last year was a perfect example when Northwich wasn't playing well, went up to damage record on Friday night, and the team was set up right. Maybe ended up being Cougars like 3-0, hands down. Kenny, it's going to be interesting to see how he sets his team up. Yeah, which is going to be very, very interesting. I'll tell you, with 10 times wide play of Tamiko Goda playing wide, he's capable.
Yeah.
He's very capable. Yes, I think a good fine for the size he is, fine young player. So yeah, that's how Kenny going to set up. And at times when Northwich handle the onslaught, the quick football, and the pace of the game is what's going to happen. And adding to what Maceo said about the number 10. Man, I still think there are questions about his ability in the position that Kenny plays him in.
Right.
Yeah, I still think he needs to see the game from the back. I don't see him as number 10. I just there's too many mistakes that he makes that I think is questionable. That's all. All
right, Macy, I'll let you finish it off.
Yeah, I mean, when we look at when North Village beat Dandytown Darbanars Park, they had North Village type players on it. Jakeem Jennings on the field. You had Jared on the field, and Kenny. Amazing, Kenny wasn't there. And I talked to a lot of coaches. In Bermuda, and the message I want to leave them with, I heard coaches saying about these players don't do this. I want to send a message to coaches that the reason you're a coach because you got to get the players to do certain things that you need them to do. It's like if I have a kid, I still have to be a parent and raise that kid to be able to do what I'm going to do. So as a coach, it's not these players. You have to figure out the solution to get the players to do what you want to do, not just suggest the players are not good enough or whatever. You have to figure that out. So that's the message I want to send out to coaches as I see the challenges, the new challenges with all the movement that's happened with coaches and players.
Right.
It creates a new challenge, and a new dynamic for us.
Right. Well, gentlemen, we'll be back next week, Sunday, with another look at the Island Stats Football Show. Enjoy your week. A lot of football to be played. Have a good one.
Take care, fellas.
Okay.